What up, y'all? I'm Organic, and Sonic Advance is the real Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Now, I know that statement was crazy. Y'all probably sitting here like, who the hell is this organic guy hopping on the internet spitting nonsense about a topic that's been already talked about? But hear me out. If y'all can manage to make y'all way through this little old video of mine, y'all see what I'm talking about. Just rock with me. You know what I'm saying? Just rock with me. See what's up. So look, y'all, the whole purpose of this video is kind of like have a discussion as to why I feel that Sonic Advance is the real Sonic the Hedgehog 4. You know, I was having a bit of an online internet rant where I was just basically going around and being like, hey man, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 isn't actually Sonic the Hedgehog 4. It's Sonic Advance. And, you know, I had some people in my comments, you know, a couple of troll-ass motherfuckers coming in, talking a little spicy. Being like, hey, man, Sonic Advance isn't a classic game. Well, no shit. The whole point of me saying that was basically me attempting to make the point that a lot of elements that exist in Sonic Advance are straight up lifted from the classic games and act as a whole ass evolution of it. And in addition to making this video to support my quote unquote rant, you know, I was also wanting to talk about Sonic Advance, you know, just because I really like it. I love Sonic Advance. It's a dope ass game. You know, I feel like it has a special place in a lot of people's hearts, not just mine. And, you know, why not just vibe out and talk about it real quick, man? So, without further ado, let's kind of like talk about this story, or the lack thereof, because people's like with y'all, there ain't really no fucking story for real. Basically, the plot is Sonic and his friends have to stop Eggman from turning their little animal buddies into robots as usual. Same plot y'all are already familiar with. Y'all already know what's up. I mean, it's a 2D Sonic game on the Game Boy Advance. It is what it is. I did try looking up some shit on the internet, you know, combing through the instruction manual a little bit, but that is pretty much all I could come up with. You know, I did kind of waste your time with that a little bit, but I feel like it is my, like, you know, reviewer and YouTuber lead duty. Fuck, if that makes sense. To kind of, you know, attempt to tell y'all a little something with the plot. But yeah, it's just typical Eggman shenanigans. And you know what? That's okay. Because, you know, Sonic stories, I don't really mind them. They be cool sometimes, but other times, I be whatever. So it is what it is. You know, at the end of the day, it's cool with me. Now, this game looks fantastic. I mean, you know what I'm saying, when you're not playing on an actual OG Game Boy Advance, because, you know, the whole no backlight situation, that shit be dark as shit. You can't really see nothing for real, unless you're like under a lamp, folding your neck. You know what I'm saying, fucking it up in the process to see. But if you're on like a Game Boy SP, Nintendo DS, or like, you know, just any of the 3DS systems in general, it generally looks fantastic. You know, you can see like the high quality of the pixel art, like backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? The pixel art backgrounds are mad vibrant and full of color. The sprites are mad detailed with fluid animations on all of the characters and shit. So I even like the small touches, like, you know, the characters' auto animations, you know, like Sonic's, like, looking up at the sky animation, if that makes sense. You know, when you press up at the D-pad, you know how Dr. Eggman be looking mad crazy and shit when you be clocking his ass. Yeah, game was dope. You know, greens, vibrant colors, all that shit is amazing. Typical sprite work. You know, it ain't on the caliber of like the kind of 2D artwork you see in something like, well, 2D sprite work that you see in stuff like stuff like on the Neo Geo, or like shit that was coming out on the Saturn. But it's still really good. grateful what the Game Boy Advance was doing. It's really impressive. I guess while we're on presentation too, still, the music is really fucking good. I like a lot of the tracks that are present in the game. It isn't quite on par with what I say that the Genesis games have to offer. You know, the Game Boy Advance sound chip isn't really the greatest. That should be, you know, in the hands of like talented developers, it could be right. And for this case, Dips, the internal sound team, they did a pretty good job. And I can really appreciate and admire that. And I mean, it's a Sonic game, you know, like a Sonic game with bad music is fucking absurd to me. And one thing y'all gonna learn about me is I really cannot stand video games with like bad video game music. I will holler about this shit when I'm on stream. I holler about this in some of my other videos. If it is bad, I don't give a shit about your game. You want me to be invested in your game and the music is questionable? Bloop. So, you know, like every other Sonic game, Sonic Advance is great. Sonic Team has always been pretty damn on point with their Sonic game soundtrack. So, hey man, you know, typical shit as usual. Let's talk about the gameplay and what essentially sparked my thought process for this fucking video. Now, see, Sonic Advance basically plays like a standard classic Sonic game. You know, movement is very similar to the older games. The momentum is very similar. The momentum is actually really good. And see, momentum and like a lot of the later Sonic games is like a consistent problem. So like to see Dimps stick the landing with Sonic Advance on their first goal is really impressive. But in addition to kind of like playing like the Genesis games with the whole momentum thing in mind, a lot of characters, you know, also kind of like have their Genesis movesets too, with some newer shit from the adventure games thrown in. But we're gonna kind of talk about that later. You know, Sonic can still spin dash. You know, the shields are still around. Tails can fly. Knuckles can do his whole glidey thing and climb on walls and shit. Typical. What you know them for doing. Now where Sonic Advance kind of mixes it up is with like all the playable characters, you know, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy having a lot of their abilities essentially ported over in 2D form from the Sonic Adventure games. Like, example, Sonic has his slide and the ability to hit grind rails. Tails can do his whole tail swipe move. Knuckles, he has his like little 3-punch combo thingy, and like he can, you know, kind of like swim underwater a bit as well. And Amy, she just straight up fucking has her entire adventure moveset because this is her first 2D game in a playable appearance. Like, yeah, she was in Sonic CD, but she wasn't playable. So Amy is just a black sheep that plays entirely different, but her gameplay is actually pretty fun. The game also has a 2-act structure just like the Genesis games. So like as you can see, Sonic Advance is kind of like doing this thing where it's fusing like the elements of the 2D Genesis games with like some of the elements from the adventure games that the adventure games established, like some of the characters' move sets and the art style, pretty much. And in doing that, essentially, Dimps basically outdid Sonic Team at their own game, almost like, you know what I'm saying, 10 years prior, you know what I'm saying, to Sega and Sonic Team doing their thing with Sonic the Hedgehog 4. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog 4, it's not the greatest Sonic game of all time. You know, it's not bad like people make it out to be, but not great either. And like when you compare it to Sonic Advance, it's like almost night and day on some shit, bro. So that's where my brain is at, and why I've even been on the internet hollering, oh, Sonic Advance is the real Sonic the Hedgehog 4. But nah, enough about me, yapping my point. I ain't gonna lie. I just kind of want to glaze this game a little bit, y'all. I love it. I really just made this video to really just kind of like talk about how much I fucking love this game, the memories I had with it. This was one of the first games that I was blessed with on the Game Boy Advance back in elementary school. I used to have like crunch sessions like in the morning, like before my mom would drop me off at like our daycare center before they have to drop me off at school or whatever, little transition shit. It was dope ass time. And then like I also had like Advance 2 and 3, and Advance 2 and 3 further like just iterates on all the dope ass shit that Advance 1 presented. So it's just dope. Love that shit. And like Sega, why didn't y'all re-release these goddamn games yet? Make like a Sonic Advance trilogy collection with Rush 1 and 2, bro. Like, damn, fuck with them. These games are good. A lot of these games are actually better than Keep It Stacked, the games y'all were putting out during that little dark time period of Sonic. But whatever. Just do that, because goddamn. I'm done complaining about that little point now. But had a lot of fucking fun making this video for y'all, yapping it up and shit, having this little discussion, trying to prove my point in this overall Glazing Sonic. If you did make it to the end of the video, feel free to hit the like button, and subscribe. It is genuinely appreciated. It helps me in my, ever growing content creation journey. And once again, it's just appreciated. But that being said, I love y'all. Enjoy the rest of y'all days. Well, not days, but enjoy the rest of your day. And honestly, peace.